Today, President Joe Biden will speak about the attacks in Israel. Overnight, we've learned more than 1,600 people have died across Israel and Gaza. More than 4,000 are hurt, and more than 180,000 people who live in Gaza are displaced. Right now, Israel says Hamas is holding people hostage. President Biden says it's likely some Americans are among the people captured. He also says 11 U.S. citizens have died. And last night here in Colorado, the community came together for a prayer vigil at Temple Emmanuel.
Yeah, it was a time of mourning, prayer, and solidarity in the wake of this weekend's attacks. 9 News reporter Brianna Fernandez is following the story again this morning. Brianna, hundreds of people are trying to find comfort right locally here in the community.
Yeah, so the community members came together, and this vigil brought together members of the Jewish community as well as local leaders to bring attention to what's going on and pray for their loved ones to return home safely. And that's the reality for some people here in Colorado. We actually sat down with Jay and Harvey Epstein. Their 80-year-old mother, Carmen, left last week for a bucket list trip to Israel. She could not have known what was coming: deadly attacks on Israel and war with Hamas. Jay and Harvey have been in contact with their mother every single day since the attack. They say multiple airlines are canceling flights in and out of the country. The first flight they can get for their mother isn't for another 9 days.
But she does want to leave, and I do see other countries evacuating people, and I don't see that happening for Americans. So I'm concerned that that maybe if we make some awareness about this, that we'll get some help in getting her out of the country.
The family feels frustrated to see other countries evacuate citizens, but not the U.S., something the government says that they're not actively considering right now. The family reached out to her representative, Congressman Joe Neguse, to see if he can help in any way they can. They'll try anything to get their mom home safely.
Oh, such a tough situation. I'm sure they're worried about her. All right, Brianna, thanks for the update.
Today, the jury will start deliberating in the trial of 2 police officers involved in the death of Elijah McClain. McClain died in August 2019 after Aurora police officers stopped and restrained him, and paramedics injected him with a sedative. McClain was not breaking any laws and was not armed at the time. Suspended Officer Randy Rodema and former Officer Jason Rosenblatt are both charged with reckless manslaughter and second-degree assault. We will talk more about what happens next in this case coming up at 6:30 this morning.
The dentist in Aurora accused of poisoning and killing his wife has pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors charged James Craig with first-degree murder for his wife Angela's death. An affidavit says he bought arsenic and potassium cyanide. Investigators say he laced his wife's protein shakes with the poison. They say he even looked up questions online like how to make a murder look like a heart attack. A judge set a trial date for April 23rd.
An update this morning: after 10 days on the run, an escaped inmate in Jefferson County has now been captured. Jeremy Buchanan got out of the Jefferson County detention facility on September 30th. Deputies say Jeremy was working in the kitchen on Saturday when he left through a delivery door and jumped over a fence. He was being held for motor vehicle theft and several drug offenses. Buchanan will now face new charges, including felony and misdemeanor escape.
Right now, investigators are working on removing more than 100 bodies from inside a funeral home in Fremont County that were improperly stored. And now we're learning the people who ran the funeral home owe tens of thousands of dollars. John Halford owns the Return to Nature funeral home in Penrose. Court records show he and his wife, Carrie, were sued by a coffin supply company for more than $20,000. And a real estate firm says they owe more than $97,000 in rent. Colorado is the only state that doesn't license funeral home operators. Republican Representative Matt Soper says that needs to change.
Certainly families would be shocked to know that their loved one's body was just lying out, decomposing along with 100 other bodies. That's not what we expect. That's not how we expect a funeral director to behave.
Soper says he believes this situation fits the definition for felony abuse of a corpse. The FBI now has questions for people whose loved ones went to Return to Nature funeral home. They want to know whether the people who died had tattoos or medical devices, and they asked for the name of their dentist to help identify the bodies.
Just over a year to go until the next presidential election, and one candidate is dropping his bid as a Democrat and running as an independent instead. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. originally planned to challenge Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. He just announced he is actually going to run as an independent. Kennedy says he wants to change the two-party system. A recent Reuters IPSOS poll showed 14% of voters would support RFK in a three-way race involving him, Biden, and Trump. Kennedy plans to campaign in Texas, Florida, and Georgia later this month.
Right now, House Republicans are trying to figure out who they want to be the next Speaker of the House. Yesterday, they met to discuss their options. Republicans Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan have both thrown their hat in the ring to replace Kevin McCarthy as the House Speaker. He was ousted from power last week. McCarthy is not a candidate for Speaker, but he does plan to stay in Congress. He said he'll support whoever the party picks. The House wants to have a candidate picked by tomorrow.
President Joe Biden is speaking with the special counsel investigating his handling of classified documents. The counsel is investigating how classified documents ended up at Biden's home and an office he used after serving as vice president. The White House says President Biden was voluntarily interviewed Sunday and Monday. The special counsel says Biden is cooperating.
6:08 right now, and this morning about 4,000 Mack truck workers are now on strike. The United Auto Workers Union wasn't happy with the proposed contract. They say the pay was not enough to keep up with inflation. The workers who are now on strike are based in Pennsylvania, Florida, and Maryland. The president of Mack says he's surprised and disappointed by the strike and calls it unnecessary.
That strike is separate from the ones happening at the big three auto companies, Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Workers have been on strike for 3 weeks now. It's now the most expensive auto strike in a century. An analysis from an economic consulting group found losses from the strike are more than $5.5 billion. And that number is only expected to grow now that Mack workers are on strike as well.
The writers' strike is officially over. 99% of the Writers Guild approved a new contract. A spokesperson for the WGA says the deal includes important protections for writers. They first walked off the job in May, and the strike lasted 148 days. Hollywood actors are still on strike.
And one thing you want to know about the weather, going to be nice again today and warm, 70s and low 80s along the Front Range today, under partly sunny skies, increasing clouds as the day goes on. And then tomorrow, just slightly cooler, but still pretty nice and above normal with temperatures mostly in the 70s with a chance for a late day shower or thunderstorm.